and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this week's reading vlog. So it is April 15th, which means we're just about halfway through April, and I'm having a pretty good time. My plans for this week is to finish as much of my Phase 10 TBR as I can, which is normally my goal, but there's a little caveat to that. So, my current Phase 10 TBR. I have the winners for longest book on my TBR, and I'm 174 pages into it and absolutely loving it. So I see no reason I won't finish this week. I am on page 122 of Twilight of the Elves, and while I'm not loving this, I'm not disliking it enough yet to want to DNF it, but this was on there for low expectations, so I didn't have tons of high hopes for it anyways, so we'll see how it goes. I have Orphan Train, which is a 5-star prediction, so you won't hear me talk about that in this vlog. I mean, I'll tell you if I've read it or not, but you won't hear my thoughts on it in this one. And it is a historical fiction that deals with the orphan train that was running around back in the day. I don't really know much more about it than that. I just know it's a historical fiction, so I'm very down to read that. And then the last book on my TBR is Wayward. And I don't think I can read, because I have the audiobook. Well, I want the audiobook, and I don't think I have access to it through Everand until like the 19th. So this is the last book I will get to on my TBR. But that's it. That's all I have left of my Phase 10 TBR. And we're only just today, halfway through the month. Do y'all have any idea how excited I am right now? I can film that whenever I want, because there's no way I'm not finishing the 2 books I'm in the middle of, and then these 2. It's just not happening. So I am feeling very, very comfortable with where I'm at. I also started A Grave Robbery. I'm like 38 pages in. This is the next book in the Veronica Spiewel mystery series, and I'm enjoying this. This is overdue from the library, so it's kind of a bigger priority than some of my other books, especially given how well I'm doing on my TBR. And then last thing, I needed an audiobook, and I wasn't going to film the clip to end my vlog, so I picked up a new book because I don't like trying to pretend when I film that I haven't read something. So, like, if I had picked up this and continued on with this, I wouldn't have wanted to fake where I was at. So I picked up an audiobook I wasn't already in the midst of and went with When You Wish Upon a Star, What If the Blue Fairy Wasn't Supposed to Help Pinocchio? And I don't know exactly where I'm in this yet because I haven't checked to see physically where I'm at in the audiobook, but I'm really, really enjoying this one. So that was a brilliant choice on my part to pick this up. So that's kind of where I'm at for this week. I'm all caught up with editing except for last week's vlog, which only just ended, so it kind of makes sense why I haven't finished editing it yet. And I have my book haul from June through December to edit, but I've started editing that on sprints, so I am feeling like I'm in a very, very good spot and that my sprints are helping me be very productive. I have to film this week. I would like to film, well, I have to film the announcement for Phase 4 of Phase Out Your TBR because I want to get that up so everybody knows it's coming. And then I want to film my Phase Out Your TBR because there's no reason not to film it. I would like to film my Phase 10 TBR because there's no reason not to film it since I know I'm going to finish my TBR. And then I am going to, I believe, be participating in a clue-based readathon. So it would be cool if I could film that TBR too, and then I know kind of what I'm reading in May, even though we're only halfway through April, and I can kind of make reading plans based on that. So that's where I'm at. I'm very, very excited for this week, and I'm feeling very, very productive. So we're going to see how this week goes, and I will check back in with you in a few days, hopefully, if I remember, to give you all an update. So it is late Friday evening. I just got done doing some sprints on my channel. It's been a slow sprint week because I had plans Thursday, I had wrestling Wednesday, and now I've got wrestling on Saturday and Sunday. So not the best sprinting week, but I did get some stuff accomplished. I have caught up on vlogs. There are no vlogs left on my phone except for the one that I'm talking to you in right now. I have a CLO coming, but I also added to my phone my phase out your TBR video, my whodunit TBR video. I think that's it. I mean, my announcement video, but I've uploaded that, so I can already take that back off. And I have read some. So first, I'm going to mention, I read Twilight of the Elves. This is the second book in the Adventurers Guild series, and I was reading this for low expectations, and I gave it 3.25 stars. So this follows two boys, namely the first one, Zed and Brock, who live in this world where you kind of join guilds, and they have a certain guild that they want to be in, but they both end up in the Adventurers Guild, which isn't where they wanted to end up. Okay, kid. You can't block the whole screen. So it isn't where they wanted to end up, and they are really good friends, and they kind of lean on each other to get through. A lot of crazy things happen to them in the first book. They meet a lot of interesting people along the way. And I spent most of the first little bit of this book trying to remember what this book was about, and had to go back and look at my video, my vlog, where I talk about this book, because I legitimately was like, I did read the first one, right? And my memory got jogged between that and reading this one. So in this one, we're kind of continuing their journey, and they're both in very different positions than they were in book one. They've obviously gotten used to being part of the guild. They have grown as characters, and a lot of things have changed for them, and we're seeing more interesting things happen in this one. And I was really uncertain. She keeps getting caught on my clothes, y'all. She's been doing it all day. I was really uncertain as to whether I was going to finish this, and if I did, whether I wanted to continue. But it is a trilogy. I own the third book. And the way this book ended, I need to know how things wrap up. So I will be reading the next book next month, just so that I can get it off of my TBR and finish the series. It is not one I'm going to keep, which means at some point I get to go over there and dig the first book off of my shelves, because I will be unhauling them. There's no way, even if the last book is 5 stars, I would reread the first two to get to the last one. So I can check this off. That is also another book off of my TBR. Then I went off of my Phase 10 TBR to read A Grave Robbery. So this is the 9th book in the Veronica Speedwell mystery series, and I gave this 4.25 stars. So this follows Veronica and this guy named Stoker that she met in the first book of the series. And Veronica is a lepidopterist. She likes hunting butterflies, and it is historical fiction. And Stoker is into taxidermy, and they work for this really, eccentric rich guy who is planning on opening some kind of museum, and they're, restoring his stuff, sorting through his stuff. And a lot of times when they're there, mysteries and murders and intrigues fall into their lap, and this one is no exception. So the lord of this manor, it's like Rose Morin, ends up buying a waxwork for his daughter. She went to Madame Tussauds, saw a Sleeping Beauty waxwork, and decided she wanted one for herself, so her father indulges her. And as Stoker and Veronica set to work on it, they realize it's not a waxwork. It's a highly preserved dead body. And so then they start to dig in. Where did this body come from? How did it end up being mistaken for waxwork? How was it preserved in such a way? And who is this poor woman who ended up in this state? And then we kind of follow them on their journey of this discovery, and I really enjoyed this one. It was just shy of a 4.5. I said on sprints today when I finished it that I was thinking 4.5, but a low one. And the more I thought about it, it was more 4.25, because it would get me invested, but not invested enough that it didn't take me an entire, week to read this, which is unusual. And I know I'm a little bit off because of the way the week has gone, but I feel like it was enough that it should be a very high 4.25. I love Veronica and Stoker's relationship. I love the way it continued to play out in this one. I loved how this mystery was played out a little bit differently in how they handled things. There is a character we meet in this one that I hope we see in future books because I found them very, very intriguing. I still really, really, really love this series, and just any books that Deanna Rayburn wants to write in this series and give to me of Veronica and Stoker will always be something I want to read. Before I finish that, though, I picked up Roll Call, which is the first book in the Dungeon Club series, and it's written by Molly Knox Ostertag and Xanth Buma, and I gave this 5 stars. So I'm going to be honest with you, I know what Dungeons & Dragons is. Like, the basic idea of what it is, and a very vague bit of how you go about playing it. However, I can tell you that this is based on D&D, and like, you see how it has, and I'm sure this is going to make sense to those of you who actually play, the like, I don't know, what would it be, character sheet or something? I don't know what any of that means. So I can't speak to the accuracy of how well that was done, but I can't imagine that they published this without being sure they knew what they were doing. But it follows these 2 girls, Jess and Olivia. Now, let me double check. Yes. Jess and Olivia. And they are running a solo D&D campaign. Olivia is the dungeon master and Jess is playing. And they're starting 8th grade. And Olivia ends up deciding that they should do a D&D club after school. And Jess doesn't like this idea. Jess doesn't see why she needs to branch out and make friends. This is her and Olivia's thing. Why do they need to invite people in? So we kind of see Olivia, who's a little bit more easygoing and finds it easier to connect with people and people she has connected with and interests she may have outside of her friendship with Jess. And Jess being so resistant to this idea, but not really communicating that fact to Olivia in a way that Olivia understands what's going on. While we also see a new kid. Well, he's not a new kid. They've known him, but like this new kid join in the D&D club and how that kind of throws everything into a tizzy. And I loved this. I loved getting to see this fantastical world that they were building through Dungeons and Dragons. It was fascinating. And like, for me, I've watched people play and it doesn't click with me. But seeing it in picture form, so like, you know, I'll go back to that panel. Seeing this where it's like laid out in front of me almost like a movie was fascinating and really, really sucked me in. So I was really invested in the story they were telling via their D&D campaign. And then I was also really invested in the girls' story in their real life with the drama of not being able to communicate with each other properly and explain how they were feeling and how this D&D club, which is this thing that they both love, is affecting both of their lives right now. So I just absolutely adored this graphic novel. I really loved the art in there. I thought it did a really good job of bringing things to life in both the real world way and in a D&D campaign way. Again, I do not know what any of those stats mean. I think I know what some of them are, but I don't know how to play D&D. I know the basic premise, but I really enjoyed how this came together, and I very much am excited that there is a second book coming this summer. So will 100% be reading that because this is one of my favorite books I've read this year. And then the last book I finished is When You Wish Upon a Star, and I finished this a little while ago on Sprints, and I gave this 4.25 stars, and this is a twisted tale, and it says, what if the Blue Fairy wasn't supposed to help Pinocchio? So we start out meeting the Blue Fairy and getting to see her make the decision to give Pinocchio a chance, and, you know, the iconic scene where she turns him from a puppet into a wooden boy. And we see the start of Pinocchio's journey. And then everything kind of changes. Like, everything that we would know from that story going forward is different once we get to that point. And I had a thought of where this book was going. Like, when I went into this, I went, okay, I think the story is going to be... However, when I actually started reading it, because I don't read the descriptions on these, I just read the twist. So when I started reading, I went, oh, that's interesting. I didn't expect this to be the story. And I really, really enjoyed where this twisted tale went with the twist. I flew through this when I actually picked it up. It got the 4.25 stars for the same reason as A Grave Robbery. Because as much as I was enjoying it, it wasn't something that was like screaming, you need to pick me up right now. It was when I knew I was going to finish, but not necessarily when I had to finish right this minute. But I really, really should take my bookmark out. But I really, really did enjoy this one and thought it was a very, very solid addition to the series. And like I said, it was very surprising the route that it ended up taking. And then my last update is that I made more progress in the winners. I'm now on page 371. This one feels very 4-star. There's a lot of stuff going on, but like I also feel like maybe this book might end up being longer than it needs to be because there might be a little too much going on that isn't like necessary. But we'll see, because sometimes, like I have said many times, the ending of a book can completely change your view of a story. So we're going to see how this goes. But like, I still really do enjoy it. It's just not, kind of like the others, driving me to pick it up the way I could not put down the D&D book. So that is where I'm at. It has been a very, very long week. I had a hair appointment. I apologize for the beanie hat hair, but I have freshened up my pink. It's a little nippy, so I'm gonna put my hat back on. But it creates a lovely little hat head that you have there, like hat hair. But I freshened that up, which meant leaving the house. And Miss Cielo had a vet appointment on Thursday. Just her routine, yearly shots and checkup. And she was not handling it well. I put her in my car so that my mom could bring her. And she was just sobbing. And so I ended up going. And I legit had to fight off a panic attack on the way there because I hadn't considered it until we got on the road where, like, the vet is. Like, when we turned onto that road. That the last time I was at the vet's office, I was bringing Monkey. And Monkey wasn't coming home with me, and I knew that. And Cielo is my cat. So, like, I have 13 cats. I've been very open about that. But, like, there are some cats who are my dad's cats. Like, he's their human. And then there's some that are, like, my mom. That's their human. For me, I am Cielo's human. So Cielo is my cat. And so I was really, really struggling because Monkey was my cat. And so I was really, really struggling by the time we got there because, like, I have a little issue with the vet right now. It's a lot of worrying while I'm there, and I stayed out with her, and she made me laugh because she was so scared that she had an accident in the carrier. And I was wondering, because I could smell some stinky. So I felt really bad because she was so scared that, like, she made a mess. So I was chuckling about that, and then my mom came out and told me that they would not put a mask on, and I will not go in like, I can sneak if I have to. And this would be I would do it because the anxiety of being outside would be worse. I could sneak through the reading room, like, and get in the main room because I will have my mask on and take that risk, but I'm not going to stand in a room while my cat is examined with people who are maskless. I don't do that. It's not something I'm capable of doing. And so I had to send her in without me. And I'm outside with no distractions. And all I can think about is, what if she doesn't come back out? So that was horrid. But she's fine. Beautiful bill of health. Healthy, almost 12-pound cat. So there was no issues there. But it was really stressful. And then, like I said, I went to get my hair done. And that requires me to be touched. Somebody has to touch you to do your hair, which didn't used to be an issue, but like is still not necessarily an issue, but like I'm not used to people being in my bubble. My parents don't come in my bubble, so I'm not typically having physical interactions with people, so having somebody that close in my bubble can be hard. But my hairstylist is great. She gives me the last appointment of the day. She masks up for me, so it's just her and me, so it's not as big a deal. But it was still a lot, and that day was a lot. And then Wednesday, I had done I had sold something on Mercari, so I dropped that off at the post office, and then I hit Target and Walmart. So it was 2 days with a lot of being out of the house, and I was very run down. And then tomorrow is my grandmother's funeral. I will not be going. I don't do funerals. I don't like that being the vivid memory. Like, I've had 3 major deaths in my life. My grandfather, my grandmother, and my mom's best friend, who was like a second mom. And that first one happened when I was 15, and one of the clearest memories I have of my second mom, my other mom, is from the wake, and seeing her lying there at the wake. And it was at that point that I decided I was never ever going to put myself in a position to have one of my strongest memories tied to somebody I loved being about them not being here anymore. So, like, for my grandfather's funeral, I had sent down a letter for my gram to try to explain it to her, and was talking about, like, getting to see, like, wanting to remember him as the guy that would show up and laugh about whatever funky thing I had done to my hair, or who used to have this thing, like, he was very old school. You do not put your elbows on the table when you're eating, and if you caught your elbows on the table, you were gonna get clocked with something. It could have been a ketchup bottle, a fork. Like, he wasn't hitting you hard, but it was enough that you felt it and you realized your elbows were on the table. And I heard that letter got passed around, and everybody had a really good chuckle because I had managed to capture my grandfather so incredibly well of, like, this is what I want to remember. And I didn't do that with my gram, and maybe I should have sent something down, but it's hard. So I'm just going to tell you what I want to remember about my gram is knowing that she didn't quite understand me, but every, like, criticism or whatever was always meant from a place of love, because she was the type of person who would question me about my weight while we were going out to eat at Friendly's and didn't understand why I wouldn't get dessert. So it wasn't that she thought I should never eat like that. She was just worried and didn't necessarily express it in the right way, but it always came from a place of love. She didn't understand the anxiety, and I can remember that the last time I saw her, like, overnight, I went and spent, like, a week with her. We had this big fight, and I don't even remember what it was about. I just know it was about some of this and not being able to explain that. And I just remember saying something along the lines of, why can't anybody love me for who I am? Why does everybody treat me like I'm broken? And starting to sob. And it was like, it didn't matter that she didn't get it. The moment that happened, she dropped everything and wrapped me in her arms. And it was like, in that moment, I knew she didn't get it, but I knew at the end of the day, she loved the crap out of me. And that was the part that mattered. I like remembering her as the person I used to sit and do puzzles with, because I almost inevitably, no matter where we were, did puzzles with her, because I spent 2 summers in Florida at her house, because she lived down in Florida. One when I was 8 and one when I was 10, and I remember doing puzzles down there the entire time. We did this, me and one of my cousins did this 1,000-piece round puzzle, and I have a picture of us sitting on my room's floor where we had done the puzzle, and it is just an amazing memory that she inspired that level of puzzles. She used to go thrift shopping all the time, and the clothes would never fit. They might not even be anything you'd wear, but every once in a while she'd find an absolute gem. And to me, remembering that is her way of saying, I'm thinking of you. So even if it was nothing I would ever wear, just the idea that she was spending all this time thinking about all of us kids and all of us grandkids, like, that's what I want to remember. I want to remember that my gram loved the crap out of all of us, even if she didn't quite understand us, that she was a lover of puzzles, she loved to sew, that she was always thinking of us, even if she didn't quite get us or understand what we liked. And that is what I want to remember. Those are the things I want to attach to my grandmother. So thank you for sitting with me and letting me share, if you're still here. because those are the things I want to take away, and those are the memories I want to have associated with my Gram when I think of her, is just the intense amount of love she had for all of us. So with that being said, I'm trying really hard not to cry now, so I'm going to wrap this clip up here, and I will check in at the end of the week to let you know how I've done. Monday, which means it's time to wrap this vlog up. It was not the best weekend. I had some very bad brain days, which I think I mentioned in the last clip, that like it's been just a very long, very rough week. I also had a lot of wrestling because I had 3 hours of wrestling on Saturday night, and then on Sunday, basically from 6:30 on, all I was doing was watching wrestling, so there was no finishing up a ton of books at that point. I also got to experience the blue screen of death on my computer, which was terrifying. I'm hoping that doesn't affect my sprints. I'm going to try. I've been told by a friend that they have new computers where they work, and they're doing that every time they update. So it may just be something that has to do with updating. I also know I watched Little Simsy on like Twitch, and she plays The Sims and has had some blue screens of death lately because of The Sims. So I have removed Sims from my computer. So we'll see if that helps. And if it keeps happening, well, then I guess I will figure it out. But it is a bit frustrating because it is a brand new computer. But what can you do? I can tell you that I kind of went off of my plan because of how bad my brain days were feeling. So I did not pick up The Winners again, and I did not pick up Orphan Train. I wanted to go with something that might be a little bit lighter. So I picked up Sweep, the story of a girl and her monster, but I only got 30 pages into it because I was feeling very unable to read on my own, meaning I needed an audiobook, but I was enjoying the basis for this. I don't really know what it's about yet, other than a young girl who is like a chimney sweep, but I guess I will continue to find out because I wasn't disenjoying what I was reading. It was just a struggle to concentrate because of what was going on in my head. So I picked up The Curious Vanishing of Beatrice Willoughby now that I had access to the audiobook, and this is a middle grade mystery, and I gave it 2.75 stars. So this follows a bunch of different characters who went to this like mansion party, a party on All Hallows Eve, where a week before All Hallows Eve, a bunch of guests get an unexpected party invitation, which harkens back to a previous All Hallows Eve party at this same location where Beatrice Willoughby went missing. And basically the idea is that they've invited these people because the man of this house, his name is Mort, he ended up getting charged with the crime of Beatrice's disappearance. And his family is kind of, I guess, inviting the same people that were there that night in an attempt to figure out which one of them actually did it, what happened to Beatrice, and to kind of clear his name. And it was fine. I think if I had been in a headspace where I could have just read whatever, I probably would have DNF'd it. But like I said, I was looking for an audiobook. It was an easy, simple middle grade audiobook, so I kind of stuck with it. I didn't like that it had a bunch of different POVs. I wasn't super attached to the guests. I don't know, I never really got into the mystery because I felt like it was very obvious from the beginning who it was. And I don't know, I didn't connect to it, I didn't dive into it, but it wasn't necessarily a bad book, and I think maybe if I had been the target audience, I would have been more into the mystery because it wouldn't have seemed so obvious to me. So I don't really have anything bad to say about it, but I don't have anything like fantastic to say either. It was a book. I read it. So I thought 2.75 was fair because 3 is, I genuinely enjoyed something about it. Whereas once you get under 3, I was like underwhelmed. So that's kind of where I'm at. I was underwhelmed by this. It was fine. I don't feel like I wasted my time or anything. And it was a good book for the way my head, like the headspace I was in at that particular moment. So I guess there's that. And then on Sunday, because I felt like I was in a better headspace, I started Wayward. I'm on page 125. And this has 3 POVs. So we're following, I need names. Alpha, who is being accused of being a witch in 1619 and of murdering a man. We have Violet, who is in 1942 and is struggling with World War II being on. Her mom died when she was younger, and her relationship with like her dad and her brother, and trying to find more out about her mom. And then we have 2019, where we're following Kate, who escapes to her great aunt's cottage that was left to her, and she's running away from an abusive partner. So there is a lot going on in this, and so far I'm enjoying it. I'm intrigued. I want to know how these stories are going to kind of connect together. So far, so good on this one. I don't think it's going to be a new favorite or anything, but I'm not necessarily disliking it or anything like that. So yeah, that is my update. Like I said, I did not anticipate the very bad brain state I was going to be in, so my plans changed, but I'm still on track to easily finish my Phase 10 TBR because I believe I have to finish the winners, which I was enjoying when I was reading it. Wayward, which I don't anticipate there being a problem with, and then Orphan Train. So I'm still in a really good position with it being the 22nd and only having one full book that I haven't started and being a decent chunk into the 2 others. So very happy with my progress there. But yeah, I think we're going to wrap this vlog up here because that's kind of everything. It was a very slow 2 days, like I said. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me some kind of blackbird, if there is, or just birds in general, in honor of Wayward. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!